Evolve. Remember that thing from last year?
Yeah, so Evolve is coming back. I mean, it never really went away. Well, sort of. So Evolve Stage 2, we covered this morning. So essentially what's happening is a lot of people said when Evolve was launched that, hey, this should be a free-to-play game. And Turtle Rock decided, hey, we're going to make it a free-to-play game on PC.
Is it really called Evolve Stage 2?
It is really called Evolve Stage 2.
They should have just called it Evolved or something. You think they could come up with a better name than that?
Evolving. Oh, man.
Because now it implies
There's no
a
colon
Stage
if
3.
that matters to you. It's just
It
Evolve
does.
Stage 2.
It
Stage
really
3
matters
is
a
they
lot.
literally pay you to play the game.
Now look, the old wives' tale version of this, the popular wisdom is, oh boy, Evolve, no one's playing it, what a disaster. Mike, I know you're hesitant about these stats, but I looked at the Steam Spy stats, and it sold over 500,000 copies. It's not a disaster on Steam.
Well, it sold more than that. It sold 2.5 million.
Oh, on everything. Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say yes, 2.5 million. Now I want to look it up.
Well, I was looking at that story recently, and it was 2.5 across. That's how many were shipped.
And for a new IP, that's
shipped
that's
2.5
great.
million, and that's across digital too.
But the issue is that it's not that it didn't sell well out of the gate; it's that just nobody kept up with it, right?
Yeah, I mean, it went through the Titanfall thing where it started very strong, and then the player base fell off very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So here's what they're doing with free to play. If you own it on PC, you have been updated to Stage 2 at this point.
Huh.
What that means is you can still play the vanilla version. You can still opt to play that. It is an option. But anybody can now download it and play for free. Anybody who owned it is considered a founder and will be getting goodies heaped on them over time. And plus you have all of the stuff that you owned. So if you had the big edition on PC, I can't remember what it's called, the one that came with both season passes that give you all the extra hunters and the 2 extra monsters and all that stuff. You still have all that stuff. All the cosmetics, which is where Turtle Rock and 2K got really dinged when that game launched in February 2015 because it had $63 worth of cosmetics at launch. Cosmetics.
Yeah.
So you can earn all of those now. You get there's a currency called silver keys. You can use them to unlock new hunters, new monsters, new skins. The only thing you can't unlock with silver keys are a few specific customization items, and those are unlocked through progression.
So do you start with just was it 4 characters, and then you unlock the other ones in the deeper tiers as you go forward?
You can choose which ones to unlock.
Right.
So if you like to play one position in particular, if you like to play Trapper, you can just unlock all the Trappers with silver keys. Now, there are a couple of major gameplay changes. They wanted to make the game more accessible. So, and I know that's kind of a dirty word to a lot of people, but one of the things they were finding was that there is a very hardcore, the people who really played that game played it very competitively. And the Trapper position in particular was probably the position that required the most skill because that was the position that could set down that dome that captured the monster for a limited amount of time. Now, any hunter can throw down the dome and the dome won't miss. It automatically drops on the monster.
What?
Oh, weird.
Yeah, and it does so for a long period of time.
Hang on, JV's going into labor here. What is that?
No. I just remember that was a big deal in that game, having the Trapper position.
Yep.
So to just completely nullify that, because that's what that's going to do.
Well, they still have the tethers and stuff like that. I'd imagine.
And they also now have something. They have a dash thing that gets them closer to the monster. So the monster's still going to be faster than the hunters, but the Trapper can zip closer. And the only way you can drop that dome is if you're close to the monster.
Okay.
This is so nuts to me. They were working on this game for so long under THQ, and it's been going on forever and ever, and it sold decently well. It's just amazing that the Turtle Rock developers, or 2K, I don't know who's pushing it harder, is we're not going to let it die. We're sticking with this thing even longer. Can you imagine after all those years shipping that game, then being well, for the next 2 years, let's keep working on it and completely retrofit this thing.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And it's completely overhauled. So the dome thing, the way it works now is everybody can every hunter can dome, and there's a meter on every screen, including the monster screen, that shows whether the dome is recharging or if it's depleting. And it goes up for 5 minutes, I think they said. And the way you knock time off it is if you knock down a hunter, some time gets knocked off. If the monster takes damage, time gets knocked off. If you incapacitate a hunter when you're in the dome, a huge amount of time gets knocked off. So the chances of it actually being a full 5 minutes that you're in the dome is pretty low. But they wanted to make sure that that the hunters couldn't eviscerate the monster in one dome.
So Futter, are you optimistic about this? What do you think about this strategy?
I think it's interesting. I want to try it. I think there's some really cool things that they're doing. I think that free to play makes a lot of sense for this game at this point. I really like the fact that they're kind of making everything, including the cosmetics, accessible through earned currency. What we don't know right now is we don't know the pacing of that earned currency. So it's all well and good to say, well, you can earn all of this stuff just by playing, but we know from, let's say, Rainbow Six Siege, if you want to unlock a DLC operator, it's going to take you like 20 hours to unlock a single one of the DLC.
Yeah, those are frustrating.
Right. So, I mean, yeah, you can unlock everything, but we don't until we understand what that pacing is, until we get a chance to play it for ourselves. I'm optimistic. I want to go back and play it. Evolve is a game I always wish I had more time and more people to play with. So I'm excited about this. I'm excited that this is going to give the community a shot in the arm. They're going to be updating it. They're going to be doing rapid patching. I mean, it's technically going into alpha today, and then a beta in August, and then they're going to release it for real, whatever that means for a free-to-play game these days.
Right. I mean, realistically, it'll bring in a new audience. I mean, I don't think it's going to become the next CSGO or anything, but it's going to do well. They're going to make more money off it than they would have just staying that same strategy. So why do you think more publishers don't do this? Why is it so rare?
That's a really good question. I think that in the case of this game, there's an opportunity here that there might not be with every game. I mean, we saw it happen with Team Fortress, for instance.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And I actually asked them about Steam Workshop and the marketplace and all that stuff. It's something they are considering for the future. So they are thinking about doing item trading. They are thinking about doing user-created content. So that might be a way that they monetize this game and engage the community in ways they couldn't do in the past.
Let's gamble on some skins. This seems flawless.
No, let's not gamble on some skins.
Maybe we'll get into that later.
By the way, visit my new site, Evolve Lotto, that I just found.
Oh, you just found it. Oh, that's cool.
And let's not do that. But I think but that's a really good way to engage the community. We've seen it with Dota. We've seen it with Team Fortress 2. That could actually really give this game some longevity. And Take-Two has always been very, very adamant that Evolve is part of their long-term strategy. Whether that means this game just continues to grow as a free-to-play game or we eventually get a sequel, I think given what's happened to the brand, it would be very unlikely at this point that we see a full-priced retail sequel.
Yeah.
But this could actually change the way this franchise is perceived. I think they have a big hill to climb, given how much irrational hate there is for this franchise. I mean, even when we tweeted about the countdown, when Kyle wrote that story on Tuesday night, if you look at the Twitter response, it's like, oh, the servers are going to go offline. Ha ha ha! It's about time. It's like, all right, how many of you actually played this game?
Yeah, that's the thing. In that ideal scenario, we talked about it a lot on this podcast. Like, that game is super fun, but you need to have 5 people with mics ready to go, and this might open that door.
I think, like, you got like the sort of idea of giving everyone access to that net, like mechanically. I think that's good because what that does is that empowers the team. Because like when I played, I had the most fun playing as the monster because you could be successful on your own. So I think by giving the net to like everybody, you empower the team, the humans, and like it makes them stronger, and maybe you can play by yourself more because everyone will have the access to that net. So like everyone
but just to be clear,
has
it's one dome.
a dome.
So it's one per team. So it's not like I throw mine, it comes down, then you throw yours, and it comes down. So it's like one. Anybody can throw it, but there's one. It's one for the team, and it's on the same.
So it's shared.
Yeah.
It is shared.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, see, I think that certainly has the. I mean, we'd have to play it to kind of see how it plays out, but like, I think that has the potential to make the human players have more fun.
Yeah,
like because they all will be. It'll be easier to contribute, maybe even with less communication.
Why just PC, Mike? Did you get a sense for that?
I actually asked them about this, and because they don't have to go through cert every time they want to patch, they're going to start with alpha beta on PC. There's no guarantee that it's coming to Xbox One and PS4, but they're not ruling it out. Depends on how it goes on PC and when they get to the point where, they're kind of patching at a more normal post-release cadence, as opposed to what you expect to see in alpha and beta.
God, I really want to know if this is going to become a strategy moving forward. Like, I feel like Ubisoft with Rainbow Six Siege with that starter pack is inching towards this.
Yeah,
is that fair to
that
say?
starter pack was also, and this is a weird thing about that, it was a time-limited thing. That's like the Call of Duty starter pack that they had where you could just play the multiplayer.
Yeah.
And those things being time-limited, I'm guessing because they're testing the waters. But I think you're right. I think we're going to start seeing more of that, like these new business models, these new packaging options as games kind of get past their launch window and into catalog status.
But do you think gamers are going to revolt against that? Just be like, well, I'm not paying $60 for your Battleborn, for example, which I think is another leading candidate here, and just being like, I know it's going to go free to play. There's no way that it won't within 2 years.
Well, it depends on how well publishers reward those people who buy in at the beginning. So if you pay $60 for a game at launch, you already know that you're paying more than somebody who's going to pay in 2 weeks, a month, 6 weeks, 2 months. The prices on games are going down a lot faster because the competition in the marketplace for with new titles is already that much more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
So you already know if you're paying at launch, you're paying more than somebody not that far down the road. The question is, when a game goes free to play, and this is something I talked about with Turtle Rock. Now, mind you, this is also a new team. So Brandon Yanez, who is the new lead designer on the game, he did art on the original game and then kind of segued into being one of the more competitive players in the office, and then took over. They actually their new community manager, who was on their balancing team, was picked from the Evolve community. So they hired a couple of those guys who were diehard Evolve players.
Cool.
So what's really interesting is they talked a lot about rewarding people who played the game. So they're going to be dumping currency on people. They're going to be giving them exclusive rewards. They really want to make those people who were there with the game for the first 18 months or so feel really rewarded by playing.
Do you feel like this could still... you talked about the hate on Twitter. Is this going to be another reason for people to jump on and rag against Turtle Rock and Evolve?
It would be kind of hypocritical for people to do that, and that's not to say they won't, because the internet. But
oh yeah,
there were a lot of people who said it that when this game came out that it should have been free to play, and I'll play it when it's free to play. You make this game free to play, and you got me. So this is a responsive move. The letter that the studio heads Chris Ashton and Phil Robb wrote was one of the better pieces of I guess PR communication that I've read. I thought it was very direct. I thought it was contrite in the right ways, but also hopeful at the same time. It acknowledged some of the game's faults.
Huh. What a weird situation. I think of like the great conversions of the past, and one that I always forget about is, do you remember THQ? They were making a Warhammer 40K MMO. Vigil was co-developing it. We went on the Darksiders 2 cover story trip. I remember
it was Dark Crusade?
Dark Millennium.
Dark Millennium.
Yeah, and they announced they were converting that entire MMO that was in development into a single-player RPG.
I remember that.
And I don't think they ever finished it.
No, something happened to THQ. Can't remember what.
Oh, that's right. But it's reminiscent of that. It's like, let's just reboot this game. And why not get experimental? Like Futter said, like you can still play, apparently, that original Evolve if you really want to play that version. So if development teams still want to stick with their babies, let's just keep nuking these things and rebuilding from the ground up over and over again.
And the thing we don't know is how much money does something like this cost? What's the risk reward here? And we know that there are monetization experts at every major publisher these days. We know that free to play has become refined. It used to be used to be a bad word in the industry. People used to, and it still is a little bit on mobile, but more on PC. People are a lot more forgiving of free to play these days, provided it's ethical and provided there's no pay to win. And I think that, given that Evolve has a progression system already, this just adds that accelerating thing. I mean, they could have turned around and said, a month, 2 month, 3 months into release, they could have turned around and said, all right, here's what we're going to do. You can progress in the game by giving us microtransactions. And we've seen that before. There are people who, that's present in games, a lot of games. This at least says, now you can try the game for free. You can play the game and progress in the game for free. You can get cosmetics. So if there was a skin that you really wanted that, at launch, that you never wanted to buy because you don't believe in buying cosmetics, then you can get that too.
Mm-hmm.
I think that this answers a lot of questions. The question is now, the game launched in February 2015. It's July 2016. Are people going to give it a shot? I hope they do. I'm really interested to see how this works. I think this is a really cool experiment. I love seeing developers and publishers experiment with new business models and really think outside the framework of what we know about how games are shipped. And we've seen a lot of this in the past couple of years, but nothing exactly like this. The closest analog I can think is Team Fortress 2.